Hi, this is Jack Berkowitz. I'm the Chief Data Officer of Securiti AI. We're a company that specializes in data and AI security, privacy, and governance. And this is part of our ongoing set of videos where we're discussing with CDOs about topics that are vital to them. I'm super happy today because today I'm meeting with somebody who I have, we'll talk with somebody who I've not just have a professional relationship with, but has become a friend because we see each other at all these events, CDO events. And, quite frankly, he's somebody I spend the most time with at these events. So Moin, welcome to the interview. Uh, and then why don't you introduce yourself and tell everybody what you do and the company and everything else?
Sure. Thanks. My pleasure. And it's always great to see you, Jack. Look forward to the next few events that are coming up.
Yeah.
My name is Moin Haque. I steward data analytics and AI now at IFF. We are IFF stands for International Flavors and Fragrances. We are in the scent, ingredients, health and biosciences, pharmaceuticals business. We're a global company that essentially B2B manufactures a lot of things out across the globe. The one data stat I can share with you is that 6 times a day you're likely tasting or smelling something that we had a part in.
That's
So
amazing, right?
yeah,
It's like that's fantastic, right? You think about
yeah,
all these businesses out there and how all those products can relate and sort of, you and I have always talked about this, right? It's a data plane that actually makes that happen, right? The products used to be the important thing and they are,
Mhm.
but without the data describing the products, they don't move.
Right.
And so to get there, you guys have built a pretty elaborate, or maybe not elaborate, but pretty robust data infrastructure to make that happen. So maybe just tell us just quickly about that and about that journey.
Sure. Yeah. So my journey here started just under 2 years ago.
Mhm.
So I'm new to the company. I'm also new to the industry. I come from about 20 plus years in media and entertainment. So that was a really interesting pivot. But as with all things data, we realized irrespective of the vertical, data problems, data challenges, and opportunities are people problems and people opportunities. So being such a large distributed organization, the approach really has been one that we succeed in through federation. Um, you know, work with the data where it is, deliver the insights where they're needed, and really create a federated landscape that can respond to all of the changes in this space, which are quite often, and all the challenges that come with that. And really have a sort of distributed sort of space in which signal to insight is something that can really help move things forward and drive action across the ecosystem.
Yeah, and it's interesting, right? Because 2 years. I'm just working on a deck. I'll be giving a like sort of a big tent speech next week in New York. And I was just working on a deck about what's happened over the past 2 years. Now I started that deck back at 2012, think all of 12 years
Yeah.
ago and everything that's happening. But even over the past 2 years with the onset, not just of Gen AI, but I think, today we're talking, Jensen Huang from NVIDIA was talking about agentic AI this week, right? And so obviously the rest of the company's executives want to talk about these things. And so how are you looking at taking advantage of all this business stuff, but then you have, all of the data infrastructure and the data products that you were supposed to deliver. How's that happening for you guys?
Definitely. Well, yeah, I mean, the last couple of years, you can't walk down the hall without some conversation around some form of AI. And to your point, it's something that's still very volatile. It's changing, right? It was all about Gen AI last year. It's all about agentic and agents in this coming year. And so when you really try to manage that challenge, we realize at the end of it, and that's what we're seeing as well, is that the foundation is really still about the data because that is really what helps drive a lot of the opportunities. And that's really what helps realize a lot of the value through these capabilities. And so data at its core, at its foundation is in many ways the enabler. It's how we're going to really see value through these efforts. And for us, the understanding has been how do we take those investments? How do we take that foundation and really use that to, 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 to build upon these capabilities? Similar to how we always looked at data as the how, AI is also part of that how. It's how we're doing it. It's not the what. It's not the shiny tool or the technology. It's how is it continuing to enable the business objectives, the strategic value, and that really, that's the key thing here. You don't want to sort of take your data strategy and then say, well, now I'm going to draft an AI strategy, and tomorrow will be something else. Will be that strategy. It's always and should always be about the business strategy and how do I sort of bring these capabilities to move that needle forward. To
Yeah,
look for value and capability there.
yeah, I like that. It is that continuum, right? And in fact, when you think about those layers of that data strategy, you know, we often run into organizations like, well, the security team's worried about this portion of the data strategy, or the privacy team's worried about that portion of the data strategy, and the analytics team is worried about yet another portion of the strategy. It always drives me crazy because, well, isn't it just the business strategy of the company, and these people happen to be fulfilling a function of that overall business strategy, that
Right.
overall go to market,
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's a key point because that also speaks to the fact that it's not one team that's really going to solve this. It's everyone that needs to lean in, especially when you look at data and AI. It's not just about a data team or a technology team. It takes a village, and you really need all of those folks to work together, and because they all bring a different dimension to it. Especially with the AI space, similar to what we saw in data a decade ago, there's a whole host of regulations, a whole host of concerns and considerations that are only going to grow. So the idea of approaching it with that lens, similar to what we with data, you need to have those partnerships. You need to have the partnership with your privacy teams, your legal teams, your risk teams, your security teams, because together we're going to get sort of that right view to how do we do this in a way that is safer, that manages risk, but still enables the opportunity and value for the organization. And the
Uh,
most important partner in this, at the end of the day, are the teams that are actually going to do something with it, where this really leads to action, and that's the business teams and the functional teams.
yeah, I love that. And in fact, working here at Security, and I just we've talked about it. I just had somebody just on the telephone for work asking me, well, why are you focused so much on uh, doing this platform approach at Security? And it was really about that. It's this notion of having a platform so that everybody can take those decisions. Sometimes it is about protecting the information or understanding where it goes downstream to your data partners, but sometimes it's about, hey, wait a second, we just need a centralized view to be able to have a conversation,
Yeah,
right? So that we all can take the same decision.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's a great point you bring up because one of the other things in the last couple of years that's happened is there's been a material sort of shift in the data center of gravity. Right? Before we look for data to always be what's coming out of our transactional platforms or other systems, more of the traditional structured data. But now, if I look at where the wealth is, where the value is, where the knowledge is, most of it is not in those structured platforms. It's across the productivity suites. It's across our emails, our chats, our file shares, our portal. Um, I don't like the term unstructured. I actually like using the term it's understructured because there's still an inherent structure. Where it's sort of missing that gap is it's not postured for all the other things we would look for. Is it postured for governance, how it should be used, what are the considerations and permissions around it? So with this shift that's happened the last couple of years, it's almost made it even more critical. Say, how do we capture that value? How do we bring it into the ecosystem? Because all of that is now data, and putting all that together is where we're going to really see sort of the holistic value. And that's been what's been most accelerated in the last year or so through Gen AI, because it's made that so much more digestible.
That's awesome. And in fact, why don't we stop there? Because I love the fact Moin just pointed it out, right? That's everything that all of us in the CDO community have been actually waiting for and striving, and it's here upon us now. Our time is now to go execute. Our time is now to take advantage of that. I work for Securiti.ai as Chief Data Officer. I've been in the data business. Like I said, I'm doing a big tent for 34 years. I just realized it. But super happy to be representing the fact that we can do these types of things now in platforms and in capabilities. Security AI builds a tool set that allows you to manage your structured and as you said, your unstructured or your needed to be structured data, bring it together into secure views, but also into generative AI pipelines, and to support your, I guess we're going to be calling it agentified AI. So uh, anyway, so thank you, Moin, for being with us today. Thank you all for taking the time to listen, and we'll see you next time on the program. Thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you. My pleasure.